Imagine a future where the streets of big cities are quiet and free from the pollution of combustion engines. On every corner, there is an electric car, autonomously charged by clean, sustainable energy. It was a dream that inspired millions of people, engineers and politicians. But what if instead we see factories closing, investments disappearing, and enthusiasm for an electric future fading? Yes, something has gone wrong, and what is happening now could radically change the fate of the automotive industry in Europe. Germany has been a symbol of advanced engineering for decades. Names like Audi, Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes have shaped the global auto industry. But today, Europe's economic powerhouse is showing worrying signs of decline. The German economy has been stagnating for almost 4 years, and the auto giants that have long been its mainstay are feeling the brunt of the crisis. The numbers speak for themselves. Industrial production is falling, the car market is slowing down, and the once dynamic industry is now fighting for survival. The promise of electric cars as a salvation is crumbling under the pressure of harsh reality. What is the root of the problem? The electric car market in Europe, which was supposed to be growing rapidly, has suddenly slowed down. The growth rate is falling, and this is already being felt in the factories and offices of companies. Take, for example, Audi, one of the leaders of the industry. Their plant in Brussels, a symbol of the electric age, is under threat of closure. The complex has been in operation since 1949 and now produces the luxury electric SUV Q8 e-tron. But its days seem numbered. For Volkswagen, this would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. But the crisis is deeper. Volkswagen Group is considering closing factories in Germany for the first time in its 87-year history. The reason? Fierce competition and the realization that their cars can no longer compete in the market. This is not a local problem. The slowdown in the electric car market is being felt across the continent. What was supposed to be a race to the future now looks more like a huge traffic jam where no one knows where to go next. Let's be honest, electric cars have never been affordable. European consumers are increasingly aware of this. The Audi Q8 e-tron, for example, costs around 80,000 euros. How many people are willing to pay that much for an electric car, no matter how advanced it is? This mismatch between price and real purchasing power is driving the industry into a corner. The European model, which has always relied on cars with high added value, is at risk of collapsing because the average consumer simply cannot afford them. And what about the workers? Employees of car factories live in constant uncertainty. What will happen to the 3,000 employees of the Audi plant in Brussels? The company is considering options, turning the plant into a production center for spare parts for other Volkswagen Group brands, or selling it altogether. But for now, these are just ideas. There are no concrete solutions, only fear and anxiety. And the crisis is not limited to direct Audi employees. Hundreds of suppliers dependent on the plant are also at risk of losing their contracts and jobs. It's a domino effect that affects the entire chain that supports the economy. And here's the big question. Are we witnessing the collapse of the electric revolution in Europe? The idea that electric cars would take over the market seemed indisputable, but now everything looks different. Factories are closing, companies are reviewing strategies, investments are being cut. This scenario makes one doubt whether the energy transition in the European auto industry is possible. But don't rush to conclusions. The story is not over yet. If the closure of the Audi plant and the crisis at Volkswagen are already alarming, then it could get worse. Imagine, one of the largest battery manufacturers is leaving Europe. This could change everything we think about the future of electric cars. Let's figure it out. Think about a worker who has dedicated 23 years to the auto industry. Every day he puts on a uniform, goes to the line, and is proud to work in one of Europe's key industries. Now imagine being told that the plant could close and there is no new work for him. This is the reality of thousands of Audi employees in Brussels. The plant, once a symbol of innovation, has become a mirror of the uncertainty of the electric revolution. For years, we were promised that the future belonged to electric cars. Car makers invested billions, governments offered subsidies, Europe was determined to abandon the internal combustion engine. But somewhere, something broke. Now Audi and Volkswagen are facing the unthinkable, closing factories in Europe for the first time in almost 90 years. Audi's Brussels plant is more than just a factory. Since 1949, it has been an important part of the industry. In 2018, it was reoriented to produce only electric cars to lead the transition to a sustainable future. The flagship was the Q8 e-tron, a powerful, stylish, technologically advanced SUV. But the price of 80,000 euros was too high for most. Sales did not meet expectations, and the market, squeezed by economic instability, did not accept such an expensive electric car. The crisis is not only affecting the workers at the plant. When production stops, an entire network of suppliers and subcontractors collapses. If the situation with Audi is alarming, then it is even worse with Volkswagen. The giant, which owns Porsche, Lamborghini, Bentley, and Audi, has always walked confidently in the market, but now it is stumbling. For the first time in 87 years, Volkswagen is thinking about closing factories in Germany, the country it made an automotive superpower. Why? Their electric cars are no match for the competition. Chinese manufacturers are flooding the market with affordable models, and German brands are stubbornly clinging to expensive cars. The average buyer is not ready to pay 60,000 to 80,000 euros for an electric car, and Volkswagen realized this too late. But that's not all. If the factories close, it will not only be the jobs of automakers who will disappear. Europe's auto industry supports millions of indirect jobs, from parts manufacturers to dealers. The entire chain is under attack, and this will affect the lives of millions of people. What happens if thousands lose their jobs at once? And if automakers cut back on investment in electric cars, what awaits consumers? Will prices rise? Will charging infrastructure grind to a halt? Will Europe become dependent on foreign companies? There are no answers, but these questions will determine the future of the industry. And here is a new twist. One of China's largest battery makers, SVT, is leaving Europe. It's a shock. The company promised a revolution with next-generation batteries and 2.7 billion euros in investments in German factories. The German government saw this as a chance to reduce dependence on Asian supplies, but everything fell apart. SVT is canceling projects and leaving the continent by January 2025, officially because of the slowdown in the electric vehicle market and the EU's tense relations with China. But rumors are talking about SVT's financial problems in China, where the debt crisis is putting pressure on companies. And now the fact, 80% of lithium batteries in Europe come from Asia, mainly from China. Without SVT, Europe is losing a key player. Battery production is expensive and complex, and Europe does not have its own powerful production facilities. If Chinese companies leave, who will provide batteries for electric cars? Without batteries, there are no cars, and without cars, the EU's environmental policy collapses. But that's not the end of the surprises. While Europe is losing investment, the US is ramping up production of batteries and electric cars, enticing companies with billions in incentives. Europe risks losing its lead in this race. SVT's exit is just the first sign that the electric car market here is shrinking. And here's another surprise: consumers are starting to fight back. In Hungary, mothers are leading protests against battery factories. Picture a quiet town, trees, local shops, a close-knit community. Suddenly, a giant factory appears, promising progress, but instead, there are polluted rivers and a shortage of water. Mothers united in the For the Environment movement demand an answer. Is this sustainable? Eva Kosma, an engineer and mother of three, says, "We were promised jobs, but at what cost? What will happen to the rivers and health in 10 years? This protest is part of a larger trend. People ask, are we trading one problem for another? Is the dream of electric cars unrealistic? The transition has been rapid. Billions in investment, incentives, pressure on consumers. But is the world ready? Factories are closing, batteries are in question, resistance is growing. What next? The industry can double down on solutions or turn to alternatives. Synthetic fuels, hydrogen. Volkswagen is already working on affordable electric cars, and Japanese and German companies are investing in new technologies. Governments are balancing to avoid economic collapse. Bottom line, there is no single path for transport. Electric cars may or may not win. The decisions made now will shape the future for decades. What do you think? Is this the end of a dream or a new start? History is far,